very pleased to welcome as part of our next session, welcome back to our screens, Rohit Lalwani, who will be moderating our next session. Rohit is a WDO community liaison in India, where he engages with the local design community and members on behalf of the World Design Organization. He is also the Director of Industry Relations at Advantika University and is also involved with a variety of startups. He's also a podcaster and entrepreneur. So welcome back to our program, Rohit, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's an honor to be a part of this program, and wish you all a very happy World Industrial Design Day. And I'm sure that we will be able to create a lot of impact globally using the power of design. And a special welcome from India. Now we will dwell on looking at two sides of a coin, where we'll be taking an inside and outside perspective on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will discuss how designers can make more inclusive world, an outside perspective, and how can the design industry be more diverse and inclusive within itself, and inside perspective. And to do this conversation, we have along with us Udhaya, or as he is fondly called as UKP. For 24 years and counting, he has led design teams across the globe, and his expertise spans design leadership and management, strategy, research, service design, product management, front-end engineering, UX, CX, design delivery, and operations. Whoa, the list actually goes on and on. Be it stealth mode startups, very large enterprises, product platform firms, academia, or government agencies, UKP has worked across a broad spectrum and strongly believes in design being a true change maker that you don't get for nothing. UKP currently leads as Global Strategic Design Director at DesignIt, a Wipro company, helping global clients craft human-centered experiences that not only unlock business value, but also enhances the way we live, work, and play. It's an honor and pleasure, UKP, to host you on our conference today. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
Hey, Rohit. Yeah, thanks for the kind introduction. And yeah, super excited to be, part of this amazing initiative from WDO. And yeah, words can't do justice, but yeah, I'm super excited, to be here.
Thank you so much, UKP. So let's start with first an inside perspective. Let's start looking at all of us as designers take the inside perspective of how things are, and then let's move to the outside one, where I have some super set of different touch points and elements that I would like to discuss with you. And on the inside perspective, with many companies now implementing policies for returning to office or hybrid schedules, bringing empathy into workplace, prioritizing mental and physical health for employees, and working with them to help them find work-life balance is becoming a priority. The question that I have for you, UKP, is how are design leaders designing for inclusion in the pandemic environment at the workplaces?
Awesome. That's an amazing, I wouldn't call it icebreaker, but it's a very profound question. And I'm glad that you actually made it the first question, Rohit. So yeah, I think, yeah, I won't talk about new normal, past. No, I think it's become an urbanized, phenomena, right? But I think, yeah, I think we are slowly but surely people are getting vaccinated, and slowly we are resuming back to life that we knew. But I think from the workplace standpoint that you asked, there is a significant, I wouldn't say there's a key thing that's happening, right? Now we are moving from a world where we used to manage people, used to manage outcomes and all of that, and those things have disrupted amazingly at exponential scale in the last year and a half. So I mean, in my mind, I would say that we are moving from a world where management by walking around, to be precise, for hundreds of years, management or leadership, as the case may be, we walk around, we are all in confined spaces or amazing spaces, but work was work, outside of work was outside of work. Now that is completely dematerialized, right? And the key thing that the entire world now agrees upon, in fact, demands upon, which actually is a tenet of DEI also, is the word is adaptive. Once we start going back to whatever semblance of normalcy, I think adaptive workplace is the word. Whether there are believers, there are non-believers, there are different companies, and of course there are some sectors where you cannot do virtual things, right? But net, I think adaptive workforce, right, is the way to go. And the simple tenet basically is, it's a workplace that's so adaptive that that enables people to work from anywhere, but they are, however, empowered to work from where they are most productive. That's the super key. It doesn't matter if I'm working from home or a co-work space or a place that I find gives me the focus. It is a hybrid model, but yes, there are some companies that are talking about 3 day in office, 2 day at work. I think these number games will eventually die. Net, it will get democratized, and it is, I think it will become contextual and situational, right? Just to add layer to what I said, right? Back in the day, I think it's all principles of economics, right? Productivity according to economics or business as we understand is a very simple math, right? You basically divide the output by input, and there are a couple of key levers, right? How do you basically improving productivity was looked at from the lens of efficiency and effectiveness. It doesn't matter if it was man, machinery, or a hybrid, and we have thrived in the last 100 years rather on that model, right? Efficiency is like, is work being done in a way that optimizes resources? Effectiveness being, the work done in a way that optimizes outcomes, right? But I think it brought us to where we are today. But this is a very mechanistic understanding of productivity, right? And the only slipstream in that is it overlooks a very fundamental key attribute that impacts both efficiency and effectiveness, which is employee engagement. In the last 6-7 years, we've been talking about employee experience, employee engagement, and multiple synonyms. In fact, some of the largest organizational transformation programs and projects are in essence to lift and shift them from where they are to where they go. But I think engagement is the key. Everybody knows what needs to be done. I mean, if you look at the business world, all of us understand that employee engagement is key. Employee experience actually precedes customer experience. We know this. There is enough examples from Nordstorms to JetBlue to all of that. But the question is, everybody knows the what. Very rarely, people know the how. When I say people, I'm generalizing, right? Individuals or organizations, right? But I think there's a lot of research that happened significantly in the last 1 year that reiterates the fact that it's not just processes and policies that need to be flexible. The mindset itself has to be adaptive. What that means is you are constantly on a fluid, neutral stance where you do what is best for the business, for the employees, for the workforce in general, and allow them to do what they do best where they feel it's best, and then measure and monitor the best, right? So I think the design, not just design leaders, I think leaders in general. I have a hypothesis that everybody is a designer. As long as your work influences some human in some form, you're actually a designer, right? So I think the world is moving to that. There are intense debates, but I predicate personally that, yeah, it will be very adaptive. You could go to your workplace, you could go to, creative people, we love to spend time in, those spaces called studios and all of that, but things are getting disintermediated. And even the public sector actually now has endorsed that maybe we should look at a flexible workplace that's adaptive. So let me pause and see if that answers your question. You there, Rohit?
I think we might have just lost Rohit. Oh, he's back. Great.
Unfortunately, we tend to have a disruption in technology at the very wrong moment. And UKP, while you were actually talking about employee engagement, one of the other interesting elements is design is everything from the experience you design for customers, but also increasingly for your employees. It's everything from the interface to the space we operate, whether it's a store or a workplace. The question that I have for you there, UKP, is what are some of the opportunities to design for your teams from a DI perspective, of course, within the organization? We design those to be an opportunity to connect, an opportunity to engage. What do you think about it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's why this topic segues on two sides of the coin, right? Designers are known to be makers. Designers are known to be influencers, dreamers, and all those wonderful things. And yeah, I think while we design for the masses, while we think we have been blessed with a superpowers, for want of a better word, to shape and influence societies at scale, you have to practice what you preach, right? You cannot just basically impose and say the world has to be this way. We need to reflect back and say, think, okay, whatever we want to scale, whatever we want to, expound upon, are we following that, right? So yeah, you could design a workspace, you could design even the way you conduct business. So I would simply put it to ways of working, right? We as designers are at the cusp of an amazing opportunity, a painful one, though it's not, it's not easy come, easy go. To basically conceptualize, create, influence, adapt, and expand on ways of working. Whether we, where we work is not the question, right? I mean, we touched upon it in the first question. Work as we construe, where do we work is one thing. How do we work so that we actually live this, day in and day out, and not just engage in as work and disengage from work. Yeah, there's been this huge hula hoop about work-life balance, right? I think balance, if you look at it, balance is the key. For a human to have balance in his or her life, they had to do something to create, earn their daily bread. I think it's been very misconstrued that work-life balance is needed. Work-life balance is as good as our probably our unique fingerprints, right? It means many things to many people. So I think for designers, from a DEI perspective, diversity or equity and inclusiveness, it's always been there. If you look at history, mankind has always been fighting for inclusion and equality, right? So we know. Look through, read through, flip through any pages, it's there. I think technology has been a great, leveler. It has disrupted things that people wouldn't have thought possible maybe 25 years ago, right? Everybody has a say. Everybody has an opinion. I think it is, with great power comes great, responsibilities, opportunities to connect, opportunities to engage. I think we know communication space. You and I are sitting and talking through a thing called Zoom. Nobody knew that Zoom would actually zoom into the stratosphere in terms of their P&L or their numbers and all of that, right? I think the building blocks are there. How we actually recast different pieces of technology and map that to these three questions: what I'm working on or what I'm trying to solve, is it diverse enough, and is it inclusive enough? And for me in DAI, I'm not saying I'm taking sides amongst those three things. I fundamentally believe equity is the glue that binds diversity and inclusiveness, because otherwise diversity has been in its diversity has been there in corporates, diversity has been there in society generally, as governments and corporates actually mandate. So I fundamentally believe societal needs beats corporate mandates hands down any day. So today we are looking at a societal need, not so much as a corporate mandate. So diversity and inclusiveness are there in its in different percentages. We could always argue about what construes a good diversity index or an inclusive index, but I think a lot of people forget the E. They somehow think E just happens automatically. I think designers have utmost visibility to actually impact equity, because people basically, people confuse equality to equity, right? Both are two different things. So yes, we have amazing powers to design for customers, but like I said, we need to design for employees. Like, it would be our colleagues in large corporates like where I come from, or it could be my 10 people startup where I actually design a way of working, design a journey that actually makes them and allows them to do what they do best. So
beautiful. In fact, while you've been talking, UKP, about taking the stand on understanding the principles of DEI very specifically and how do you get into it, one of the other areas of design that we could actually inculcate in this is the equitable design principles that can be adopted at workplace. Which of these do you think that can be adopted, and will it help to create equal power of
Rohit, are you with us?
Yeah, am I audible to you, UKP?
Yes,
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 we
yes.
can hear you now.
We lost you for like a few seconds, but yeah, you're back.
So, great. So I was talking about the principles of equitable design principles. How can we adopt it for the workplace, and will it help to create equal power or opportunities at the workplace? Was my question.
Fantastic. Again, I think, yeah. I mean, my answer to the previous question slightly expounds on this. Yes, like I said, to repeat again, I think equity is the one that binds diversity and inclusiveness. Most of the organizations, yeah, I mean, equality is there. Equality is basically, we have the same rules, same do's and don'ts without discrimination. And we say that, yeah, it's a corporate policy. Yes, that is also needed. But I think equity in terms of principles, in my mind, probably I distill it to three things. You need to first understand that equality and equity are not one and the same. Because if you don't get that, you cannot even have principles for equity. You also need to understand what does equity bring to the table and why equity is a must have. It's not a nice to have. And I think five things that I fundamentally believe is basically the bloodline of equity, right? Fundamentally, it encourages cognitive diversity within groups, within teams, and that actually brings in and expounds your decision making abilities. Nobody feels left out, and this is where it covers the D part and the I part, right? Also, on a continual, and in today's day and age, I think you need to upskill, reskill. We have spoken about this at various forums. You have to be very malleable enough to learn things, unlearn things, right? So equity is the only thing today that helps companies and organizations to basically target upskilling for a diverse workforce. They are diverse in their own ways, but they are very very specific in their own wants and needs. So 1+2 basically enables human capital professionals to actually drive this thing that we spoke about called employee engagement. Employee engagement is not just having virtual events, having fun. Employee engagement is beyond that, right? It is a way of the organization's signal to each and every one of its workforce that, hey, I'm with you. No matter what happens, I'm with you. And I already have created guardrails that empowers you to make mistakes, that empowers to fall down, get up, dust yourself, and get back to doing what you're doing, right? So these three principles actually dovetail into another thing which is very very important in terms of attrition, because people are dissatisfied, they'll move. And in today's day and age, as we speak, I think each person is looking at probably 20-30 opportunities that he or she never thought is possible, probably in 2019. Everybody wants to grab the best people. And if the last thing is, if you get these four things right, the entire, it allows the entire company, as when I say entire company, a company is just a name, right? The entire construct of a company, every single employee or workforce member, to actually contribute to a shared mission. Today, more often than not, I think DEI is a mandate that flows top down. Maybe the C-suite has decided that we need to signal to the world that we are DEI friendly, or we are DEI conform to DEI. But it's basically going to fall on flat ground, right? Some people get it, most people won't get it. So all of this is great, but yeah, coming to the design principles that you spoke, I think it all starts with key outcomes. You got to define outcomes, right? Be it workspace. If I'm the chief operating officer, one of the key things for me is like, I need to create a space where people feel that they belong, where they're seen, appreciated, and they're valued. It's not just a HR or a human capital function. Now, from an operational standpoint, as probably we all know, CEO is by far the most powerful person in an organization, number two of the organization, right? My mandate is, let me define outcomes, let me create those checks and balances. And how do you define outcomes? You identify outcomes, you figure out all of that. That has to be codified. And the second principle actually evolves out of defining outcomes. You need to have a playbook for assessing everything, your ways of conducting business, your ways of this playbook literally says, this is me. Now, most of the companies mistake this for culture. Culture is a very intangible thing, right? Culture is not a vision statement or 10 things that we do or don't. In today's day and age, it's changed. This playbook literally is the Bible about what we are, what we stand for, and how do we go about doing what we do best. And predominantly in an organization, if you really look at it, assessments are of two types. The first assessment is when you hire people, and then once you hire those rock stars, during their tenure, you need to constantly assess their performance, and that is a continual treadmill, right? I think you define outcomes, you create a playbook that is equitable, that is democratized, that's available for everybody. And eventually the third principle is, why are you doing all of this? Because you want to signal that you're a great place to work, not just in words or statements, but you live that. But how do you prove to the world, right? So this is where the third thing principle comes. You need to measure privilege and ability, right? With great power, yeah, you got to measure those. There are multiple different systems and schools of thought, but what I'm saying is, it is maturing as we speak. I think if you get these two principles, you have to measure it. If you don't measure it, these are again probably a paragraph of text in your annual reports. So you got to measure privilege, you got to measure the ability of people constantly, and constantly refine and take it northward. So I mean, in my case, in my yeah, I mean, these were the three principles I think are critical for any company of any size.
Interesting. And UKP, while we've been taking an inside perspective, let's move outside. Let's talk about customers and take an outside perspective. While diversity and inclusion in design involve developing and nurturing DEI practices internally, companies should also consider the diversity of people who use their products as well. How can companies build or design products that can address the problem or needs of the masses, according to you, UKP?
Brilliant question. This thing has been in existence at least for 20, 30 years, and people have been talking about accessible design, universal design, and all of that, right? I mean, people misconstrue it, some people get it, and all of that. I think designers have this fundamental fiduciary duty, if you will, in the current context, to actually design for everybody. Now, when I say design for everybody, it's not that probably a fashion industry has to manufacture everything for everybody that's outside of their business. Within their scope, I think we need to design classic design, digital design from the advent of internet. I think in the last 25, 30 years, we have refined our ways of working and we have templatized it, right? We do primary research, we do secondary research, and basically we bring in our thought process outside and inside out and all of those thinking, and we've been doing what we are doing. So much so, I think today design is commoditized, right? There's nothing wow in design. I mean, a search engine is a search engine. Probably a social space is a social space. Basically, we are living in a world where a lot of nouns have become verbs. Search is not search, it's Google, right? Photocopy is not photocopy, it's Xerox. So we know what we're speaking about. I think designers as a community, I think we have been not at fault, but we've had our blind spots. We generally think that we are the creative guys. We connect the ask versus the task, and we do all our research and fundamental things. But like you said, how do we design for masses? I think I have been supremely influenced, by the design for design for diversity. It's very pretty famous but underrated. Jahan and Boyan, for those you know, or if you don't know, look up. They are co-founders of Project Inkblot. I have been significantly impacted by the body of work that they do, and they've come up with a framework, right? It's nothing but five key questions for designers, right? The hypothesis being, no matter how creative we are and how great we are, and I think we bring in our own biases as designers, our own life experiences, and then we decide that this is best for our users or consumers. So this framework beautifully, breaks it down and says, how do we identify our biases first, even before going and solving for something, right? So they actually have an interesting spin. They have 5 key questions that they recommend that every designer or design group should actually apply. The first one being, you start with the worst. What is the worst case scenario? I mean, whatever problem statement or whatever solutioning we're looking at, how bad can it go, and whom? The whom is very important, right? I think that actually, puts people actually, it actually blanks out people, right? Because you're not used to solving like that. So it enables you to reflect and pause and basically come up with things that you can do it. Then the next key question that they say is, okay, now that you got that out of the way, now let's talk about ourselves. Amongst our team, what kind of identities do we bring to the table? Cultural influences, what kind of race and gender, and all of those wonderful things. And how does that actually influence our decision making? Are we trying to force fit and retrofit our thing because we are a multidisciplinary team? And are we saying that we could solve a problem for a 10 million, sized target market? Absolutely not. These two questions actually enables you to pause, reflect, and figure out that, hey, maybe we are doing things right, but it could be better, right? So once you get this out of the way, you actually focus on exclusion. Now, am I excluding some people advertently or inadvertently, right? Now, once you identify that, yes, you are actually excluding, and the chances of you actually excluding in any problem system or solution is very likely. Once you do that, I think fundamentally, the next question as researchers or design, curiosity is basically, now that we identified that there are people that we are excluding, how do we engage with them? How do we bring them into our fold so that we give coverage to them? And that is the equity part again, right? And once you have these 4 questions, their hypothesis says, now that we know all of this, do we need to tweak our current design conceptualizing or delivery process and get into the room and actually do a very dispassionate, as in unsalted review of, are we designing for everybody? So let me pause and see if that answers your question. So in principle, I believe that the D4D framework, there are a lot of frameworks, but I relate to their frameworks because it's the most simple, stupid, but most effective framework that I've come across in my lifetime though.
I think that's an interesting perspective, UKP. In the interest of time, I come to my last question here. And this is a unique blend question. With investment in artificial intelligence increasing and its immense ability to impact human and society, are designers too late to be involved with AI? Could we then address AI's inherent biases which are out there?
I wouldn't say we are too late, but I think we as design community have been lazy about it. We have been amazing consumers of all the wonderful things that AI has actually brought it to our table in terms of design as a practice. But I think we have been skeptical. We have been probably lazy to embrace it. You can't find many designers who want to roll up their sleeve and actually muck around with code, right? You cannot find many people who go deep, delve deep, and figure out why is it what it's doing. Like, I mean, the applied areas of AI, right? Right from it's equally exciting and controversial for me, right from facial recognition to cashless society or unmanned warfare, an extended reality, right? I think they should invest time, but it's a two-way street. They also should invest time in figuring it out, and their workplaces also have to be designed in such a way that the organization allows them to actually get their hands dirty and give them a safe place where they know it is okay to fail. There are companies which say, I'll put you on a training for 3 months and the 4th month I expect you to get revenues. I mean, let's be honest about it. That's the way most of the world works. I think this is where even DEI kicks in. I think it is a two-way street. You signal your propensity to learn, and companies and corporates have to signal their propensity to enable that and then measure it, like we said, measure it and monitor it. So yeah, I think we've been a little late, but as the famous saying goes, right, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best is today. So I think in AI, the best time for all of designers to actually get their hands dirty on AI and ML was 10 years back. But I think the second best date is today.
So beautifully expressed, UKP. Though we would love to continue this conversation. To all our audience, UKP is quite active on LinkedIn. Do reach out to him, and he'll be glad to connect with you and answer your questions and queries online. Thank you.
I think
for sharing your thoughts with you and keep connected.
Hey, thanks, Rohit. Thanks everybody from WDO. It was so fun. Yeah, I mean, 30 minutes just flew by, but I'm glad, and I hope I added some things that people could take it up and think about it at least. Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you so much, Udhaya, for your thoughts, and thank you, Rohit, for facilitating another great conversation. I wish you both a wonderful rest of your day.